We all know the story of the Wright brothers who started out as bike mechanics and eventually got into planes. Sling Cycles is the complete inverse of that. These are plane people that got into bikes. Employees from Sling Aircraft, which is based in Johannesburg, South Africa, would often hit the local trails out there and dream up what the perfect bike would be. Using their knowledge in manufacturing and aeronautics, the Sling Tagati was born. Tagati is an anglicism of the Zulu word Umthakasi, which means witch or wizard, or more literally, the mixer of medicines. And just like that Zulu word, the bike attempts to be the perfect blend, so to speak, for varied riding conditions. The bike I tested was a size medium. Starting from the front, the Tagati has a carbon fork, which has 3-pack mounts. A particular fork also had adjustable rake, although in this review I didn't get a chance to play with the rake. Other nice touches are mounting points on the top tube to directly bolt on a top tube bag. And on the rear it has bosses for racks and fenders, which is a really nice touch to see in a performance-oriented bike. The weight, as you see here with the pedals and the bottle cages, comes out to a really svelte 23 pounds, which is, I think, ridiculously good compared to how big the meats are on the bike. In terms of the geometry nerdery, it has a fairly longish chainstay at 440. This of course allows it to accommodate the big 700 by 2.4 meats that you can stick in there. On the front, the head tube angle is 70 degrees. Again, slightly slacker than on a more road-inspired gravel bike. With the racing array, the calculated trail comes out to 78. Again, for reference, road bikes tend to live in that 50 to mid 60 range in terms of trail, so this is a little bit on the higher side. Definitely still a ways to go from enduro mountain biking, but a little bit more relaxed and chill than more road-oriented gravel bikes. How did it ride? Like the name suggests, it did feel like a really interesting blend of varying riding characteristics. Going on flat terrain, the big meats, the long chainstay and high trail just cruised over the gravel terrain pretty easily and comfortably. On climbs, this is where I think it got interesting. It was both smooth and responsive at the same time. The longer rear end took away the jumpiness, but the light weight of the bike and possibly the materials still made it feel responsive to your pedal stroke. So although it had kind of the length of a touring bike, it definitely didn't feel like a touring bike in the climbs. Whereas some bikes just feel long and smooth, albeit a little bit sluggish in the climb, this was a good blend of both. Going downhill, the bike was an absolute blast. The long and stable geometry made it feel like you could surf the grab with ease. Another nice surprise, I usually expect carbon forks to feel a little bit on the stiffer side on the terrain we have out here, but I was pleasantly surprised at how compliant the front felt. Of course, this could be due to the high volume tires, but generally speaking, the front did a much better job than I was expecting, taking the edge off of gravel descents. From a handling perspective, what did this bike remind me of? The first thing that came to mind was our older Cutthroats. I felt like, for whatever reason, it just felt a little bit more compliant feeling than the Cutthroats. More recently, it also reminded me of the Singular I reviewed earlier this year, if not a little bit lighter and a little bit more responsive feeling. The Tagati, to me, definitely has an all-day riding geometry that's smooth and comfortable. It's not a bike that you have to micromanage at hour 8 of your epic ride, but with its light weight, it still manages some responsiveness and playfulness when you want to get spicy on the bike. I think in this way, it definitely lives up to its name, the mixer of medicines, combining a more relaxed geo, but with more performance-oriented materials. I love that it comes with all the mounts and doesn't sacrifice utility for, pure raciness. When you're spending this much coin on the bike, you want to make it as versatile as possible, or at least I do. Another interesting thing with this bike is they offer it as a e-bike model. You can get it spec'd out so you can run a belt drive, and you can also get it with a split frame so you can fit it in your personal aircraft if that's how you roll and fly. So what are the cons on this particular build? I'm not a fan of the limited range of Campy eCar. I think the ergonomics are great, but Campy just hates lower gears, and I like lower gears. Fortunately, they do have build options with SRAM Apex and Force, or you could just get the frame set and build it up however you like. Another con for me, and this might just be a Russ thing, is that it has internal routing. Just not a fan. And lastly, the bike isn't cheap. It's Thai and carbon. All the good things, and those things cost money. but there's a ton to like. I love this blend of performance and utility. I love the kind of bead blasted look of titanium. And also I love this combination of a more chiller, relaxed geometry, but it's not built like a tank and is still plenty responsive. It's a bike that you can definitely use for many uses. The rack and fender mounts alone mean you can use it as a commuter, you could do traditional bike touring with it, or you could go rackless and use it as a full-on bike packing rig. I think the geometry definitely lends itself to longer rides, so if you've got a big epic endurance gravel ride on your list, this would be an awesome bike to do it. Its general demeanor is more on the stable side, but when or if you need to pick up the pace, it's no slouch and it will do that too. What do you think of the Togati? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys appreciate these bike reviews, again, I don't get paid to do these reviews, please consider supporting the channel by joining us on Patreon. You get lots of cool perks. Or hit up the merch store. We just restocked our Party Pace ESI silicone grips, which are oh so supple for your hands. And as always, everybody, keep the supple side down.